By the 2040s, the anonymous practice had become heritage. Lights and dreams no longer signaled spectacle but a culture of patience, preparing humanity for dialogue by living as if it had already begun. Before we begin, write in the comments where you're watching from and what you believe about extraterrestrial contact. By the dawn of the 2040s, the circles had existed for more than 40 years. What began in the late 1990s as hesitant gatherings beneath uncertain skies had become a heritage passed from one generation to the next. Elders who had once struggled to steady their breath during the first strange silences now watched their children and grandchildren step calmly into the same practices. The handover was not dramatic. It was quiet, ordinary, and deliberate, just as the ethic demanded. The same principles still guided every meeting: arrive quietly, regulate breath, soften the body, widen attention, write before speaking, care before theorizing. Yet by now, these habits were no longer confined to night vigils. They had become embedded in families, workplaces, and communities. To younger participants, they did not feel like rules at all. They felt like common sense. Phenomena continued with remarkable fidelity. Lights appeared with the same preludes: the hush, the hum, the warmth, the metallic tang, and followed the same familiar sequences: points brightening, holding in geometry, collapsing into one, dimming without departure. To skeptics, they remained ambiguous. To participants, they were confirmations that the curriculum was alive. The lesson was not novelty but durability. Dreams reflected the generational handover. Elders described presences guiding them to rest, to pass responsibility gently, to step back without disappearing. Younger dreamers described being corrected in micro-details of breath, stance, and perception, as though they were being tuned for greater responsibility. Sometimes entire families dreamed the same lesson on the same night, elders stepping aside, children stepping forward, both held steady by radiant figures. Communities noticed the continuity. Schools where participants taught emphasized description before interpretation. Workplaces adopted pauses for breath before difficult meetings. Families integrated short silences into daily routines. The practice had expanded beyond its original context, shaping a culture that valued patience over panic, humility over performance, and care over conquest. By 2040, participants realized the practice was no longer an experiment. It was an inheritance. They did not wonder whether the next generation would continue. They saw it happening, quietly and steadily, without spectacle. The handover had begun, and the legacy was safe. The years 2041 and 2042 brought encounters that felt layered, almost musical in their complexity. Circles across continents reported phenomena that unfolded not as simple notes but as sequences: lights forming, collapsing, splitting, orbiting, and remerging in patterns that echoed the group's rhythms of breath and movement. Participants described the events as orchestration rather than display. Resonance sessions had matured into sophisticated practices. Groups synchronized not only breath but gentle movements, timed silences, and coordinated postures. Watches were synchronized down to the second. Logs revealed that when these rhythms aligned, phenomena often responded in kind. In one session, alternating exhalations coincided with alternating pulses of light. In another, a group's swaying movements mirrored arcs traced above them. Across distance, other circles reported nearly identical sequences within the same hour. The phenomenon seemed to reward coherence with coherence. Dreams mirrored this depth. Participants described standing in vast halls where light vibrated like chords. Each person carried a note, and only together did harmony emerge. Presences corrected them gently. Lengthen here, release tension there, breathe together now. People woke with the unshakable sense that humanity was being taught to hold resonance as a collective instrument. Physical sensations grew more nuanced too. Warmth and coolness alternated in waves across bodies. Pressure pulsed behind eyes in rhythm with lights above. Sounds sharpened unexpectedly, as though perception itself was being tuned. Logs captured these details with precision, building a catalog that now spanned decades. And you? Have you ever felt yourself part of a rhythm larger than yourself, through music, silence, or shared presence? Comment below and let us know how it shaped you. Intergenerational continuity deepened. Children guided younger siblings, teenagers facilitated silences, elders offered calm anchors without dominating. The practice had become so embedded that no one needed to enforce it. It lived in breath and rhythm, passed down like a language. By the close of 2042, participants recognized that the curriculum was no longer about individuals or even single circles. It was about humanity as an orchestra, being tuned to hold resonance under pressure. The unknown was not asking for proof. It was asking for harmony. By 2043, the ethic of the circles had moved firmly into broader society. Schools adopted silence minutes at the start of the day, modeled after pre-briefs. Workplaces introduced logging methods for meetings, encouraging participants to write before debating. Families paused with breathe before conflicts escalated. The line between practice and society had blurred almost completely. Phenomena responded with a new kind of integration. Lights appeared not only during vigils but during ordinary gatherings, community meals, school assemblies, neighborhood meetings. They did not dominate events but punctuated them, as though affirming that steadiness in daily life mattered as much as steadiness under the stars. Participants logged these appearances with the same precision as always: times, headings, durations, sensations. The message was consistent. Contact was not about spectacle. It was about integration. Dreams reflected this shift into daily life. People described being shown ordinary scenes: a conversation with a spouse, a disagreement at work, a child's frustration, and presences guiding them to soften, breathe, and release tension before words hardened. The curriculum had become indistinguishable from living. Participants woke with the conviction that every moment was training, that contact was not a future event but an ongoing reality woven into life itself. Communities noticed tangible benefits. Violence decreased where the ethics spread. Schools saw calmer classrooms. Workplaces reported less burnout. Neighborhoods became more cooperative. The training had begun as preparation for encounters, but it was reshaping society itself. Auditing evolved to include social impact. Logs were not only about lights and dreams but also about how the ethics shaped communities. Did patience increase? Did conflicts resolve more peacefully? Did children grow more attentive? The answers, though anecdotal, were consistent enough to suggest that the practice was producing not just steadier circles but steadier societies. Quick pause. Have you seen how small practices, like breathing before speaking or listening before judging, can ripple into larger change in your family or community? Share below. Your story may inspire others. Intergenerational practice became seamless. Elders stepped back, children stepped forward, and the ethic flowed naturally. There were no initiations, no ceremonies, no titles, only practices repeated until they became second nature. Humanity was not waiting for disclosure. It was already embodying the qualities needed for dialogue: patience, humility, care, and steadiness. By 2044, participants no longer asked if contact would come. They lived as if it already had. Lights, dreams, and resonance were not promises of a future but confirmations of a present reality. Humanity had been included, not through spectacle, but through practice. By 2045, the circles spoke less of preparation and more of participation. They realized that contact was not an event waiting to happen but a state already being lived. Every breath held in calm, every notebook filled with honest logs, every act of care during pressure was itself the dialogue. The unknown had never promised proof. It had invited partnership through capacity. Phenomena continued with patience. Lights appeared, preludes repeated, dreams guided. But participants no longer measured success by appearances. They measured it by how they lived. Did they remain steady when challenged? Did they carry humility into conversations? Did they care for each other when fear surged? Did they bring the ethic into families, workplaces, communities? These questions had become the curriculum. Dreams of this era often featured thresholds, doors opening into light, vast horizons beckoning, but always the instruction was the same: wait, breathe, remain steady until invited. The lesson was patience at the edge of revelation, a reminder that capacity mattered more than arrival. Humanity was being trained not to rush into answers but to embody readiness. The legacy had become undeniable. Decades of practice had produced generations who were calmer, less reactive, more humane. Fear of death had softened. Anxiety had loosened its grip. Communities were steadier. Children grew up with the ethic as normal, not special. The culture's refusal to monetize or dramatize had preserved its purity, allowing it to spread quietly but powerfully. Final reflection: what do you think matters more, receiving proof, or becoming the kind of humanity that could hold proof without breaking? Comment below and share your perspective. By the close of the 2040s, participants realized that disclosure might never arrive in the way outsiders demanded. And yet, they no longer needed it. The curriculum had succeeded. Humanity had been taught how to remain human under pressure, how to meet the unknown with humility, how to integrate steadiness into every part of life. That was the contact. That was the legacy. The story of 2045 and beyond did not end with a spectacle. It ended with transformation. Humanity had not been given closure. It had been given capacity. And capacity, unlike proof, could not be taken away. If this story caught your attention, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who are also fascinated by UFOs. And leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really happened?